Hi, this is Lucy, your clarity coach, and this is Tuesday Talks at 3. It is the month of July, and although we are coming to the end of the month, it is still considered as the second half of the year. This whole 31 days is something that we already are. So welcome to Taking Back Control series. This is what July has been about. It is a series that focuses on the areas of our lives that need our attention, especially now that we have time to course correct. Now, in our episode, balanced relationship with technology within the family. Isn't that amazing? Technology within the family. So we are seeking to know how best to promote this healthy and balanced relationship with technology, like I said, within the family. And why within the family? Because today it's all about taking back control in the context of family, and definitely online it is. And I can already see that my guest today has joined me. This is Evelyn Kasina. Hi, Evelyn. Evelyn is a family IT consultant and digital learner. Now, that means Evelyn is well placed and a thought leader in our topic today. Hello, Evelyn, and karibu sana.
Hi. Can you hear me?
I can hear you very clearly. I see you very clearly. I want to believe you can also hear me well and see me clearly.
I can.
Great. Thank you so much, Evelyn. Now, in this episode, it's a super exciting episode because today it is our norm to be online. Even now we are online. Days past before the pandemic, we would be doing this in person in an event room somewhere or in a hotel somewhere. So in this episode, just to set a context, like a framework so that we can guide our conversation, we seek to know how best to promote a healthy and balanced relationship with technology within the family. This is what we are here to talk about. And like I said, today being online is the norm. I mean, Evelyn, we do business online. We attend school online, suddenly we had these things called the learning management systems, the LMSs. Who would have thought that you could go and get a master's online? Hey, this is our reality today.
Yeah.
Evelyn, we are researching online, and I know there's a lot of challenges and controversial discussions around chat GPT and plagiarism, but that's a topic for another day.
Yes.
We shop online, Evelyn. E-commerce is the thing. In fact, some of us are stuck and glued to our phones, shopping one thing or the other.
Yeah.
You have a baby shower coming up. You know what the theme is. You're already shopping for a dress or shoes. You're shopping for a car online. We even worship online. We worship online.
I know.
Worship online. We exercise online. This online space is our norm. It is not a place to be afraid of. It's a place to embrace and be able to utilize what it can give us. However, the question is, where do we even start with our families, Evelyn? Where do we even start to encourage this promotion of healthy and balanced relationship? And in that place that we start, what does it look like? I mean, this is your expertise, Evelyn. Please guide us.
So when I start having this kind of conversation, I just ask people to first breathe and breathe. Just breathe.
Yeah.
Because I feel as an adult on this side looking at my children, I honestly can't keep up with how fast technology is coming. Today I am doing one thing, and by the time I'm just catching onto it, there's another thing that is making that irrelevant. And it really is a space where parents are feeling overwhelmed. So I just keep saying fast breathe. And to just bring it into context, especially for families, I love to say, before you start thinking of managing, have an inventory of what you have. And having an inventory here means can we first look at, do we have internet penetration in our home? I'm sure now it has become like, the way you have basic needs, internet has literally become a basic need.
Yeah.
And so if you have connection into your home, you can have a list that says, okay, we can say X amount of gadgets are shared within the family members in the house. So maybe that is the TV, maybe that is the smart TV, maybe there's a computer, there is a phone that is being shared across different family members. Can we list that down? And then we come and say, these are personalized devices. So maybe the mom and the dad, everybody has a phone of two. This particular computer is for mom. This one is for, the first child, second child, like that. So each individual data-enabled device, and I'm very specific to data-enabled device because anything that will actually connect to the internet. Then when we are looking at that inventory, let's ask ourselves, how are we utilizing these particular gadgets? So if it is the TV, when do we get to use the TV? And for what? So most of the time, and I even don't think right now we are really utilizing the TVs because everybody is kind of having their own entertainment in their own platforms. We can say maybe we use the TV once a week, maybe twice a week. It depends on how each family is doing so. And then try and now see, as a parent now, you're looking at, so we've come up with this list, and you ask yourself, so when my kids are in school, how are they engaging technology, right? When they're off school, like maybe they've closed school or they're on holiday or over the weekend, how are they consuming technology? And when you're thinking about it, is it positive? Is it constructive? Or is it, and let me use this word loosely, is it mindless? Because there are times when you think, when somebody is watching a Netflix series at 8 in the morning, I call that mindless binging, because at 8 in the morning, your brain is really active. It needs to be engaged with positive things and things that actually can have some sort of interaction. So when we come to that point, as a parent, you need now to start really intentionally asking yourself, so when I'm paying for this internet and my children have access to these gadgets, apart from just entertaining and connecting with people, then what? So what can they do? And that is the point of interaction where the balance will come in, because you want to be able to allow them to entertain and to connect, but you also want them to look for things that will edify them the same time they're using those gadgets. Does that make sense so far?
Oh, it makes so much sense. You have pointed out a few things there that I'd really like to highlight. Technology is evolving so fast. We need to keep up, and even as parents ourselves, we are challenged. However, because we are looking at promoting a healthy and balanced relationship with technology, we need, like we say in Kenyanese, kujituma. We need to make it, kujituma, exactly. We need to make it a priority. And I'm sure somewhere along the line, we're going to be looking at the security of the online safety. But let us be cognizant at this point that technology is evolving very fast, and we are always experiencing this. You mentioned something else about us being aware of the gadgets in our home, the data-enabled devices. That's, I think, what you referred to them as. Which are they? So taking like an inventory, I've never thought of doing that, but just taking an inventory of what it is we have at home. You then brought a third and very important aspect. Now, this is in the house. What about outside home? How are we interacting with these gadgets, therefore, with technology and being online? And what does it mean to be online for our family? So we are taking an inventory. I am absolutely loving how this conversation is going. I just want to recognize John. Good to see you back again. I do hope that this conversation is going to help you on your journey with technology so that we can make it positive, not mindless, as you have heard Evelyn say. And we've got Ndaka Mutisia. Ndaka Mutisia, thank you so much. I think this is your first time to join Tuesday Talks at 3. You are most welcome for personal development topics and amazing speakers like Evelyn. Evelyn, please go ahead.
Ndaka Mutisia is my friend, so I'm happy to see him online. So thank you so much for joining. So now when you start thinking of, you've done your inventory, you're thinking, one of the things I also tell parents is in the process of breathing, you might feel I've not done enough, or there is so much that is happening in my house, I don't know where to start. My caution is always deal with the right problem. Don't start looking for problems. Just deal with the right problem. And I always tell people, and let me start by telling you that sometimes when we say we are having issues with screen time, it's really not the time, it is the content. Because when you dig deeper, you realize I'm not really worried about the time that my children are spending on time or myself. I'm really worried about the content I'm consuming. Because, and I'll give a perfect example. If biggest worry was you do not want your child to engage in age-inappropriate content, it doesn't matter whether they watch it for 10 hours or 2 minutes, right? So it's not the issue of time. It's about the type of content and how exactly and how it's streaming through. So we need to start looking at that. And now when we are taking the inventory, we ask ourselves, so if my child is on social media, what are they consuming? Can we have a discussion around the spaces they're going, the people they're interacting with, so that we can kind of shift the conversation from being confrontational and you're inviting a space of conversation. Because you can't keep moping yourself and saying, you cannot do this, you cannot do this, because you're not always with them. So you really can't control what they do and what they don't do. So creating a space where there is a healthy environment, conducive, not even healthy, just a conducive environment where people are open to sharing what they feel, what they're doing, and the parent is listening and able to exchange, a healthy exchange. That is a very big thing, because now when I talk about technology at home, it's about nurturing, right? It's about nurture, because yes, the school does nurture, but the school has systems which accommodate very many other people. At home, it is really nurturing according to values, according to how we want certain outputs to look like. So we need to have that mind shift. I keep telling parents as well that whatever you do, you cannot wish technology away. And I think you already said that, because it's in everything we are doing. So you cannot say, when is the best time to give my child a phone? You really don't need to buy that child a phone, but they have access to it somehow within the family network. So it is, how do I guide my child to know when they are behind a gadget, these are my expectations. When they're behind a gadget, there are certain things that are demanded of them by the platform holders, by the government, by the family, and those things come really through conversation. You cannot wish also the conversations away. You cannot decide, it's okay, you learn as you go and you will figure yourself out. We need to come back to let's talk. And I think right now, even in the country, the whole mood is let's talk. So we begin from let's talk.
What I love about what you're saying is that you are encouraging dialogue. And I absolutely love the part where you are alluding to, it's not about what I say, it's not about dictatorship. It's about edifying them. It's about understanding what their needs are and therefore what they would wish to interact with online with technology. We talked about reflecting. So we're reflecting and assessing what our family is consuming at this time. Now, we don't want to make assumptions as parents. That's where the conversation comes in. I actually love the word dialogue, because a dialogue, it tends to feel like we are sitting, we are speaking, no voices are being raised. Nothing is being imposed. If anything, we are all sharing and bringing to the table. Then you mentioned values. Evelyn, that is where you just hit the sweet spot for me. Because families, like any structure, we are built by some values. And it was so nice to have that in our dialogue as families, to start from there and then be able to say, how will technology build up on this, morph from this? And therefore, it then directs what it is we are going to be consuming. Also, dialogue allows us to share the fears, because I could be bullied online as an adult, as a child, and therefore I have fears, I have challenges, but I'm too ashamed to even whisper it to anybody. But because there's dialogue, and that's why I love that word, because there's dialogue at home, I'm able to even whisper it. And then what happens? The family breathes beautiful life into it by protecting me. I'm loving where we are going. I'm loving where we're going with it. Please continue, Evelyn.
So I'm going to reiterate the issue of the point of values. And I keep saying value is the value system that you create is really the foundation. That's the key. It's the foundation of how you build up things. And the reason why I say this, it's because if you're to critically even just think about your own home, you've raised your children in a certain value set. Where we do go wrong is we don't communicate what these values are. We expect that, somehow they will catch wind, the children will catch wind, or the people around us will catch wind on what our values are. And I think as we seek to dialogue, one of the things we really, really need to emphasize on is to speak about our values, but go beyond and explain why certain values are important. Because when for instance, you're raising pre-teenagers, and pre-teenagers are very curious. All children are curious, but there's a certain age where they're really, really curious. They want to push boundaries because they just want to see how far can I go. When they do overstep and they have a solid foundation which is based on values, they can always go back. They will bounce back to that because they'll be like, okay. And as parents, the best we can do is when we're raising them, we're creating this conducive environment that tells this child, if something were to happen out there, when you come back home, we shall have a conversation. The dialogue will still happen, consequences or not. And I keep saying, as we seek to develop digital well-being, we need to be able to have our children understand letting you go online doesn't mean there is absence of consequences. So even when you're coming back, we will receive you with love. We will still apply the consequences, but we are creating an environment where I want you to go be as curious as possible, be safe when you're at it, because we are creating that environment of safety. But when things happen, because for them, they have very many avenues to get information, we want you to come back home, come back to where your north is, where your values have been set for you. And for me, that is a very, very important point, because we cannot create rules in a vacuum. We have to be grounded by something. For me, that is, I feel like I always have to ponder that point because it's really, really important.
And it's so important what you're saying, because even when I do my trainings for corporate culture, in corporate culture, you will find that companies have visions, they have missions, and then they have values. However, what they do is they just put down values, maybe 3, maybe 4, maybe 5, but they never break them down. And even in the space of not breaking them down, they do not cascade it to their staff. And therein is a gap for misinterpretation. So if we are talking about honesty, what does it mean? What does honesty mean? Because honesty could mean so many different things. It could take on different forms. But here in our company, and now I'm going to use here in our family, when we talk about honesty, what does it mean? You break it down. That means when we're sitting at the table and having a meal, this is how we behave. When we're inviting people through the door, this is how we behave. And you're aligning the value to those actions. And what I do find, having spoken, to companies and to families, is that there's that gap. Just because we've listed it out, we leave it in Kenyanese for you, kujijazia. And the danger of kujijazia is that we come with different versions of the same word. And that is why you see that behavior then is so fragmented. But I love that this environment of digital well-being is something that is founded or grounded or has a firmness in values. I absolutely love it. Please go ahead, Evelyn.
So the whole idea of this conversation, and I know you and I had this talk about taking control. We are taking control, and this is to first two things: to understand that at the end of the day, as parents, we still are in control. We have to be in control. And that doesn't mean, for instance, understanding how TikTok works, how Snapchat works, how Discord works, all the platforms your children are in. It doesn't mean that. It just means understanding that technology has a space in your home, and this is where it's fitting in, right? Taking control here means I feel like I've abdicated part of my parenting to gadgets. How do I take that control back, right? How do I make intentional time either off gadgets or off technology so that we can have some semblance of communication and, you know, building that offline relationship with family members? We need to start looking at our own selves. So this is where I start hitting parents. You cannot want your children to have a good and healthy balance of technology when yours just stinks, right? And allow me to point out, like for instance, in class when I'm teaching children around, you know, balancing technology and gadgets and all, there's something we call tech-free zones or tech-free times. And one of those zones like is the toilet. So a parent will sit in my class and hear me say, you cannot go to the toilet with your phones. This is a tech-free zone, okay? And immediately you go home and implement that for your family, then you forget that those rules also apply to you. You forget that your children are watching you to model the behavior that you want to see changing. So you tell them you cannot go to the toilet with your phone, but you're going to the toilet with your phone. You're preaching and breathing different things. So for me, I keep saying, even part of that inventory that we were talking about, what are the bad habits that you need to change so that they don't cascade down to your children, right? So it's simple things. When we're having meals, let's put our phones down. Let's have a meal looking at each other's eyes. Maybe when we decide one day a week we are having a family movie night, can we just decide it is one gadget at a time so that all parents and everybody who's with the family is, you know, watching one screen and getting entertainment from one screen. If we decide, okay, fine, you know, the family, people need to use technology in common spaces, or if it's in the bedroom, the doors have to be open. It depends. Families are different, but whatever rules, however simple, please be the person who doesn't struggle to make those rules work. Because you can't tell your child one thing and you're doing the opposite, right? So for me, taking control means before you start implementing what we are saying now, please look at the mirror and ask yourself, so what are the kind of things that I need to change? For instance, and I keep saying this is something parents really struggle with. What is the first thing you do in the morning when you snooze your phone? Because we are using the phone as our alarms. I don't know what happened to actual alarm clocks, but once you do that, before you even step out of the bed, you've gone to WhatsApp, you've gone to Instagram, you've gone to Facebook, you have responded literally to the whole world before you even respond to yourself, before you say good morning to the people you're living with, which is really wrong. Then imagine you've gone to Twitter and you find this bad vibe, you find such bad energy on Twitter or on Facebook. And that is the first thing you consume in the morning. Your day actually gets distorted because of that bad energy. So we need to also help ourselves to have a healthy relationship with technology, so that when we are telling our children, these are my expectations when you're on these platforms, you're not speaking something that is theoretical, you actually are living it. And when you're taking control, I want you to understand that if it feels hard for you, it will feel hard for your child. It will be difficult. For instance, if you're going to reduce their time, just reduce your own time and see how it feels. Then you will understand and have empathy when you see your child struggling just to reduce 30 minutes from their time on the screen. You will actually realize, but it was also hard for me to reduce my WhatsApp time or my Facebook time. So I can really relate with how this child is, maybe either giving me pushback, or they're stealing time to go in spaces to just binge on their phone for 10 more minutes. You will notice those kind of things, but because you're experiencing it, at that point as an adult, you apply empathy. So I think taking control is also, for me, understanding that it's not easy. It is something that you will struggle with and you will see your children struggling with. So there's a space for grace. And I keep saying parents need a lot of grace. That's why I say breathe. You just breathe.
You gotta breathe.
When it becomes hard, breathe. And ask yourself, if this technique that I tried to apply isn't working, can I try something else? Because at the end of the day, the goal is you're trying to have a balance. You're trying to see how technology works for the family in different ways. So for me, also, as we create values, grace,
Yes.
breathe, and teach yourself to have empathy in that process. Yeah.
Wow, wow, that is just so amazing. And here we are talking clearly about leading by example. So whatever it is that I am saying at home or I'm encouraging, I need to be practicing it myself. And you mentioned something, yeah? I recognize that it may be difficult for me. So I need to have empathy as I am, dishing out the instructions. However, we still come back to the dialogue in the conversation. And therefore, we are sharing the challenges that we are having. One thing I have found, Evelyn, that works is vulnerability from a parent. When a parent leads with vulnerability, I tell you, the buy-in is huge, because then the child can see, oh, mom is struggling, oh, dad is struggling. And at this point, they are actually the ones who come up with a solution. And you find that because you've left that door open for dialogue and conversation, you are able to promote that healthy and balanced relationship in your home. You also introduced etiquette. I loved that one of going to the toilet, because that is the place. In fact, there's a meme that goes around that there's a sign in the toilet that's saying, this is not the place to use your phone. And because this is something that took over from the magazines in the toilet, which helped your bowel movement. So now it's your phone that you're going with. And this is part of online etiquette. You brought in that word. So something that we need to be aware of as adults, that we can encourage our children to have. Now, age appropriate, as we are giving this feedback. I know you talked about the doors being open. I know you talked about one gadget at a time. I know you talked about the dining table. We want to be looking at each other as opposed to the phone. Again, I believe that age appropriate communication is key, because you're speaking to different ages of people. You've got the baby, and they're so good with technology. Then you've got the one who's a preteen, you've got the teen, and then you've got the adult child who lives with you and maybe is even paying bills in that home. So your conversations are going to be so varied. But if you choose to have a positive digital well-being in your home, I think that we are on the right track. Now, Evelyn, you talked about that inventory that you take. And the inventory is going to beg the question on the pros and the cons of online activities. My question to you is, how do we help families understand these risks and then guide them in adopting effective safety measures?
So remember, there's something you used called Jitume, send yourself. I think Jitume is just direct translation to send yourself.
Yeah.
One of the things that I love to encourage parents is to send themselves to get education. Don't wait for fire to see fire in your house to know that fire is hot or it can actually happen. If you do hear, and we constantly hear incidences happening in different homes, maybe in different countries, and things that would really shock us to the core, and things are happening to children, and we say it's okay, those ones happen in other places, but little do you know that it really could happen within your own home. Sending yourself means, if you've had something, take initiative to learn about it. And once you're learning about it, engage. I'm going to use very practical, and allow me to just be very practical here, examples, just case studies. We have had children who, engage in age inappropriate content, and e.g. pornography. And then you'll come and think, oh, you found your child, maybe you were snooping. And I really love this thing of parents going into their children's homes without them knowing, so it is snooping. And then they realize, oh, if I'm looking at their history of what they were browsing, there was something inappropriate. And at that point, before you seek to understand what happened, how it happened, what their understanding was, we blow out, right? we blow out, we become viral, we do not even want them to talk. So we are just there pounding and pounding and pounding.
Yeah.
G2 may here say means, do you actually realize that at some point in your child's living in the digital age, that they will access age-inappropriate content? It's a matter of when, not if. They will access, right? So as a parent who is trying to take control, you need to start being intentional rather than being reactive. Don't wait until you see it so that you can start reacting to what you think you saw. Start trying to unpack some of these things. And I'll give you examples of where you will find inlets to have conversations, to just engage them. Yeah. So you're having a family movie, and I don't think right now there is any movie that maybe doesn't have a bit of kissing, a bit of hugging, a bit of, something that is very physical in terms of showing love. And when you are actually watching a movie, when your devices, your handheld devices are somewhere else and you're watching that one screen, you can actually look at the reactions from the different members of your family when they see something that looks funny on the TV. And when you see those reactions, because maybe they will not voice them, but you'll see somebody has twitched, somebody has done this, somebody's like, ew, somebody will do something. And at that point, you will realize we need to have a conversation around how people express. When they hear a conversation, somebody has cursed, somebody has said something that they feel is inappropriate, because our values do not allow us to use vulgar language, but somebody used it and maybe it was let to slide. That is an opportunity to have that conversation. So you're being intentional in unpacking it. And by unpacking, start by seeking to understand what the child took from that message. So, and I'll give another example of maybe LGBTQ, because also in what we are watching, it's a lot of that narration that is in there. Okay, so they see it. What was their understanding? They watched porn. Above where they saw it, they've already watched. What was their understanding, right? So if the eye saw, what did the heart take, right? Yes. So stop at that point and try and start unpacking it. And again, I want you to remember, once upon a time, if your child is 12, once upon a time you were 12, okay? Yeah. The only difference is when you were 12, you watched porn in a magazine as opposed to your child who is watching it behind a closed door in the toilet, right? That is the only difference. It's not like when we were growing up, that content was unavailable. It's just maybe it was a little harder to get it than it is today. Understand, when you are 12 years old, you are curious. So your child is in that curiosity stage. Understand that maybe they were watching something and that kind of content popped up. They didn't know what it was and they clicked it. What I'm trying to say here is seek to understand, so that if you're going to have a conversation with your child, they understand where you're coming from. And that means you're taking control by breathing. That's why I started saying breathe. Just breathe. Because it is inevitable for them to engage and see some of these things. When you do experience your child, there is watching. And at this point in time, it's good for me to say that we also are experiencing children who are creating. Because yes, the digital literacy skills are helping them to start creating things. Then they become curious on what they can create. When you do find your child is creating, instead of bashing them and saying, no, you cannot be on this platform, you cannot be, I'm taking away your phone, I'm switching off the internet, you need to start having a very serious conversation about the impacts of that digital footprint. Because they've created, where did they send? What was their intention after they sent? Did they actually know once they give away that power when they've sent, they have relinquished everything? They don't, like, they've given out all their power. So that maybe they were being pressured and you really didn't know there was something else happening, and what you have seen was a mask. Then you're unpacking what is happening behind the scene. So I feel there's so many conversations, but we need to be able to just first seek to understand the kids where they are. It is easier for us to come down than them to come up, because we can go down to where they are, so that you can start finding out, okay, I saw you were doing this. I really want to understand the process that made you arrive to this point. Then now we can say, okay, fine, this happened, so how can we mitigate what has happened? If it is age-inappropriate content that can be pulled down, and I'm going to share with you a site that, can take you through how to pull down content for, children, age-inappropriate content for children. you can take them now through that process, because what they have posted there will have a negative impact in the future for them. So they need to start understanding that they squarely have the responsibility of what goes on the internet for them, so that you start setting those expectations. That one I do share with parents who already have children, maybe already engaging in social media.
Yeah.
But if you have children who are not on social media, take one platform at a time. If they're at age 13 and above, they say, I want to be on this social media platform. Have a conversation, then sign a contract. And again, happy to share with you those contracts that will enable you to, set the time, set the space, set the content. Yes, so that now you say, I'm giving you this phone. This is a responsibility. My expectations are, if you're going to go on Facebook, for instance, Facebook expects you're going through the community standards. You have a responsibility to yourself. You have a responsibility to the community. Yes, so they squarely understand, but it's not about my mom being annoyed. No, because I tell them, for instance, if I was your parent and I saw a naked video photo of you, I'll really feel bad as your parent. But guess whose photo it is? It's not mine. Anybody who wants to use it against you for the rest of your life will be shaming you, not me. So don't give them that opportunity. But of course, there are some who have already crossed that threshold, and that's why we tend as much as possible to see how we can pull that content down. But we do help them see that is a longer rehabilitation process than not posting in the first place. So of course,
I love that all comes aligned with what did you say earlier on? Online etiquette.
Yes.
Online etiquette demands that you do know what it is you're doing and what it means for you. It's like the please and the thank yous of our spoken word. What is it that you are engaging with, and how you're communicating, and how you're being seen online? And two things that you mentioned were, there was a teachable moment. You talked about watching movies together, watching whatever it is together, consuming content together, and then being aware of the reactions around you as a parent, and using those moments as teachable moments. Not that you're going to blast somebody, but you're kind of having that dialogue with them about that reaction, not necessarily asking them, why did you react the way you did, but building up from that reaction and saying, if somebody said ew, yeah, it's ew, why do you think it's ew? And you're having a conversation. This only allows the children to know that it is a safe space to have conversations. Now, when we talk about seeking to understand, there are sometimes when you look at the history, the browsing history, and you see what your child has been engaging and consuming. Seeking to understand for me means that it doesn't necessarily mean that it started with them. It could be also a case of bullying. It could be a case of people coming into their lives and giving them an either or, like an ultimatum. You as a parent seeking to understand will unearth this. But if you come across as just blasting and calling off the dictatorship statements, you're pushing this child deeper into the darkness. And I'm loving those 2 points because they show us the risks of being online. And I do know there's so many positives of being online, and that is in edifying a child, edifying even us adults, how we can do our business, how we can grow our own, or even just the well-being, listening to podcasts that will help us to become a better version of ourselves. Now, that begs then the question, for those of us that are analog, and as you mentioned at the beginning, technology is evolving so fast. Where do I get digital literacy from? How do I get empowered? And if I'm not getting empowered, where can I seek professional help, to help me? Because at times, even that breathing is not going to help me, because when I finish breathing, I still don't know what to do. Now I'm hyperventilating. So what would you share with parents who are struggling with the way that the online space is just blowing up? What would you say to parents about that? How do they get literate in digital matters?
So that's a very, very interesting question. And I know as parents, the one platform in our generation that we all belong to is Facebook, right? When I mean, we all have it's our default, our default kind of platform. And so I keep saying you don't need to know everything, just seek professional support. I am professional support because I do work with these platforms to promote trust and safety and, make sure that the platforms are complying, but also encouraging children on how to be safe on the platforms. So I do have a Facebook group. It's called Digital Parenting with Evelyn Kasina. I keep sending people there because every single week I will be breaking down something about a platform. I will be talking about maybe something new that has been set out that will benefit yourself and benefit your children.
Yeah.
I do also really, really come up with maybe short versions of text or posters that help parents to support their children's online experience. And allow me to explain what this is.
Yeah.
What we do in our parenting journey is support. That's the best we can do because your children have something you cannot control. That is choice. Yes. You cannot control your children's choice. The best you can do is to support. So even when they do make that bad choice, you have to support their experience through that bad choice. We do hope as parents, of course, that they make the right choices, but that is not always what we do get.
Yeah.
So how to communicate with them when we need better output. I create conversations and tips on how to have different conversations with children of different ages. Right now, a child who was born maybe 2-3 years ago, they were literally born with footprints already about them online before they checked in because maybe their parents did a photo bump shoot and stuff like that. And there's no point in time where they consented for their footprint to be online, but it is already there.
Yeah.
So when that child is growing up and they start saying, mommy, I feel bad when you posted that photo and it made me feel I'm embarrassed about it. And they don't know how to really explain to you how embarrassing it is because you think it is sweet, they think it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
And they're requesting you kindly to remove it down.
Yeah.
But maybe that is the one photo that got like 1,000 likes. So you're thinking, oh my God, you want me to remove that photo? So just for you as a parent, I know, for you as a parent to understand the rights to privacy, your child's rights, their footprint, I help parents to look for that support because I do know it is not common knowledge. And through this group, I have, I keep curating content according to need. Today, I wanted to do something very controversial. Can I tell you what I wanted to do? So a friend of mine asked me, when was the first time you interacted with pornography? So I found that question I was like, say that again. When was the first time you interacted with pornography? I'm like, I think when I was in high school. I was like, how did you interact with it? It was the Playboy magazines where, it has really been squeezed in a way that it's almost becoming so compact. But then I realized, no, it was not in high school. Because now when she mentioned Kama Sutra, you remember Kama Sutra? It took me back and I'm like, yes, I actually interacted with pornography a little earlier. Probably at that point, that is what I needed. So I wanted to put it online so that I can see what parents say. Because when somebody asks you, when was the first time you interacted with, the person will think you watch porn. Like, are you saying I watch porn? You got to tell me they already become defensive in a way that...
There's a difference between interacting with, I see where you're going.
Yes. And the normal reaction will be, no, me, I don't interact. As in, I don't watch porn. I'm like, I did not say you watch porn. When did you interact with it? Or when did you even just get exposed to it? So I wanted to play that game. There is also something I thought maybe I need to frame it in a way that people don't start feeling attacked because we need to be able to just breathe and understand. There's a lot of conversation and unpacking around the things we put in our minds that we kind of press down and we don't talk about the reality of how some experiences make us parent in this age. And those are the things that come out sometimes when you hear somebody putting very strict rules in their home and you're wondering, okay, why did you make that rule? And why did you make it in such a way that it is so restrictive? There is no space for agility. And you realize it is because of an experience that that person had when they were younger, and they're coming from a place of love. It's only that the way they've packaged it does not express love. So I also help parents to seek that knowledge and expertise, to know how do I want to show my children that everything I say and I do actually comes from a very, a very loving place. So can you help me learn, how to communicate with them? And especially teenagers, because teenagers have a lot of pushback when you're coming to put some restrictions or boundaries. They have a lot of pushback. So a lot of that just needs people to stay involved. Number one, just stay involved in your child's experience through growth, but also seek professional help, because that professional help will ensure that your child always comes back to you. Remember, we said your child needs to come back to you. Whatever they do, just let them feel that, let them feel this environment is conducive enough for me to go speak to my mom. It doesn't matter what I do or my dad. But then,
well, we're
let's see how
to the end of our session now. And you have clearly given us a platform that we can fall back on. And I hope for those of us who are listening now and in the future, when you listen to this particular episode, you are aware that there is a platform called Digital Parenting with Evelyn Kasina on Facebook. And by you just going on there, you are going to get digital literacy and empowerment, ways that you can communicate, information that you never even thought was available, but then other parents, I beg your pardon, are experiencing it. And therefore it allows you to be ahead of the game in a space where technology is really moving fast. So you've got like-minded people sharing the same kind of challenges and who are coming from a place of love for their children, and therefore want to be able to edify them, enrich their lives. And Evelyn, here you have said that we need to seek professional support, and I couldn't agree more with that. And as we come to the end, what is your one call to action to parents? What is one liner that you say to parents today?
Apart from breathing, just learn the ecosystem of your child. And I think I'm going to also share a tool around that. Learn the ecosystem of your child, because there is so much you can do for your child in your home that will be undone by the people who are around or who have access to your child. In fact, the question that I always ask parents is who has access to your child? And you realize when you start unpacking that, I can share my website so that you can see how that wheel looks like. There is the primary, secondary, tertiary. So when you start thinking, okay, I'm sending my child to a play date, what are the kind of things that I need to be mindful of when I check my child to a play date in terms of keeping them safe? When I'm taking my child to school, what are the kind of questions I need to ask the school on what priorities or parameters of safety they have set up for my child? So for me, it is answer the question, who has access to my child? And then what are you doing to enable that ecosystem actually has the best interest of your child?
Well, there you've heard it. The call to action is answering the question, who has access to your child? And remember, who has access to your child does not necessarily mean somebody face to face. It is also online. It's all about technology, and it's about you taking back control. Thank you so much, Evelyn, for your time today. And please, as we are just winding up, if you could drop in your website address and the Facebook, if it is a group that we can join, it really help, at least for the people here. Kaine, it's good to see you here. Welcome for joining us. I can see Laura is here. I can see Rabin, we haven't met before. Welcome. Color my thoughts. Oh, lovely.
Yes,
you're here.
That's Jennifer.
Hello, Jennifer. Welcome. We've got Misa Molo. Karibu sana. We've got Jerry. We've got Esther Karungi. Just a shout out to you guys. Thank you so much. Hezi, Tony Hezi. And I'm loving this. And there's so many more of you who are joining in. I hope you are getting value. You're very quiet out there, not sharing anything with me. Laura, you have said there, hi, Mentor. Glad to see you. And I hope you are just grabbing all these. Even there where you are in Qatar, Laura, you are able to apply this, because that is closer to the first world than we are. from what we have been talking today, there are 3 takeaways that I am taking away. And it's not to water down what Evelyn has said. The first one is values and how those are going to show up in your interaction with technology in your home. Remember, it was about promoting a healthy and balanced relationship with technology within the family as you were taking back control. So what values do you have? Have you broken those down? Have you communicated them? Are you able to digest it into actions? This is what we are talking about here when it comes to values. The second one was be curious. And Evelyn really explained it so well. Be curious about what is going on in your child's life. Seek to understand. Seek to understand. And I can see Evelyn is posting all the links that we need. Guys, please take them down, open them so that you don't lose them. And take note of what is in there, because our life is online. It is digital. It's technology. I mean, we have AI coming in and machine learning. This is going to be our life. Are our parents going to be taken over by AI? Well, that's a story for another day. But the third takeaway that was so profound today, which can be very controversial, but when taken in the exact context that Evelyn shared, was support. It doesn't matter what your child is going through. One of the relationships that you should be having with your children, one of the responsibilities is to support them through the process, because most probably they did things unknowingly. And even if they did them knowingly, this is your teachable moment. Thank you so much. That was our last episode today on taking back control on this series of July. And the recording of this episode will be available on our YouTube channel, LMC Consultancy, by this evening. Hop on there and subscribe for updates on our sessions. And please leave your comments here on IG so that other people can consume what you learn. I want to thank you so much, Evelyn, for being candid. For having tangible examples, things that we could relate with, and for sharing with us your world. Thank you so much, and I do hope that we can interact again here on Tuesday Talks at 3. You have a blessed afternoon, Evelyn. Well, the Awakening Self. Thank you so much. You're most welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, the Awakening Self program was a huge success last week. The participants were equipped with tools, 5 proven tools that help them move from where they are to where they desire to be. It is a journey, and they know that they need to enjoy the journey. This week, those same participants are engaging with coaching sessions with me. Each coaching session is an hour, and it's at a cost of 7,000 shillings, but because they were participants on my program, it is a bonus that I offered. So this week I am busy with coaching sessions up to next week, and we finish it on the 31st of July, Monday. I enjoyed our sessions so much. I laughed so hard and I learned so much. So check out our courses, because we are all about giving you more learnings. Check out our courses on our website. Our social media platforms also have great tips on personal development and mental wellness. So please find us on Instagram, find us on Facebook, find us on LinkedIn, on TikTok. Lucy, your Clarity Coach is the handle you're looking for. Help us to build each other. And until August, when we will be coming up with something totally different, I want you to be kind to yourselves. Bye-bye now.